Hey there, Michael Cirillo here, and before we dive into this episode of the Dealer Playbook, I just want to let you know how extremely excited I am to let you know that my book, Don't Wait, Dominate, has officially launched and is available on Amazon in ebook and hard copy format. I want you to go check it out because it's going to help you rise above the clutter and dominate your market. Go and check it out. We'll link you up in the show notes. Now on to the show.
Hey, this is Jordan Harbinger from the Art of Charm podcast, and you're listening to the Dealer Playbook podcast.
You're dialed in to the Dealer Playbook podcast, where it's all about winning auto dealer strategies that deliver proven results. And now your hosts, Robert Weissman and Michael Cirillo.
Hey there, what is going on? This is session 56 of the Dealer Playbook podcast, where every week we are bringing you conversations with power players, like elite superstars in and out of the automotive industry, and today is no exception. My name is Michael Cirillo, joined by Mr. Robert Weissman. What's going on?
Hey, man. What's up?
Not much. I mean, super exciting week. You know, got the book launch happening. We'll link you up in the show notes. Super excited to get that project underway, and you know, the reviews have been really cool. But you know, I want to intro our guest today, because this is a topic that we've never really had on the show. And so I think it's kind of one of those breath of fresh air topics. A lot of aha moments for me as we were sitting down with our guest. His name is Jordan Harbinger. He's the co-founder of The Art of Charm, which is a crazy podcast you need to get dialed into. We'll link you up in the show notes. It's one of the most popular podcasts in the world. It's got over 1 million downloads every single month, which I mean, boggles my mind. The Art of Charm's also been covered by Forbes, NPR, The Today Show, Esquire magazine, even like Saturday Night Live and MSNBC. So it's a really big show. Jordan is one of the hosts of that show, and he's covering a topic today that I think, you know, those of you listening in will find really valuable. Robert, what do you have to say before we jump into this show?
I mean, I've been listening to Jordan's podcast before I ever even started podcasting, and awesome guests, great topics. The guy's, you know, professional broadcaster by far, and there's so much to learn from him. So make sure you go and download that. You're going to thank us for that. You'll owe us for that one.
You're gonna owe us for that.
Yeah, you'll get that once you really dive into this session. Now, but Jordan's the man. I know a lot of you, you know, listening in have checked out his podcast. I've talked to some of you about it, but this is a good session, man. I had fun, and it was awesome that he took the time to jump on here.
All right, so let's do this. Jumping in with Jordan Harbinger. Here we go. Hey, Jordan, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. You know, we were just talking, super excited to have you on. We know, especially people in our network and those of you listening in are already somewhat up to speed with The Art of Charm. We know some of you are already listening and dialing into your show, so it's great to have you on the show. We wanted to dive right in because there's a variety of topics that you could talk about that you have some expertise in, but we wanted to focus in on one that we haven't really talked about on the show yet, and that's just ways that, you know, those listening in can leverage their communities and leverage the networking opportunities that they have to build their book of business. And so I want to turn it over to you and say, you know, first off, when it comes to networking, what are some of the challenges that people face? What are some of the mistakes that they make? And then I guess the second part to that question is, where do you see there's an opportunity to change the way people network and grow a network that they can monetize?
Sure, yeah. So those are huge questions. So we'll be able to touch on a little bit here, but obviously, luckily, there's 450 hours of me talking about that with other people on our show as well at the Art of Charm podcast. But the common mistakes that I see are people waiting to network. Like they'll go, well, you know, I need to launch my website first, or I need to make sure that I have this thing set up. And part of that is sort of legitimately misplaced concern. Like, oh, well, if I network and this relationship takes off, then he sends me a bunch of people and my website's not ready, I'm going to look dumb. And it shows sort of an underestimation of how networking actually works. The other reason, and I think the real reason that most people do it, is because they go, oof, going to this event or reaching out to this person involves potential rejection. This could go south. They could not reply. I might feel bad about myself. Nah, I'm going to work on my t-shirt design. I'm going to work on my business card design. I'm going to work on my social media profile instead, or whatever. And that's a huge mistake, because not only are you then avoiding something that's crucially important, but the principle here that we go by at AOC is dig your well before you're thirsty. And there are even books that are titled this. And what that means is, if you are looking for your network because you need it desperately in the moment, you are screwed. If you're looking for a job because you just got fired and now you're going, hey, I'd really like to meet up and have coffee because I'm broke and unemployed. You're
Too late.
Yeah, it's way too late. You're not going to get that sense of urgency, because what that says is, oh, you're going to ask me for a job. I don't know you. I don't want to go meet you for lunch. And then you ask me for a job and I have to sort of weasel my way around that because I don't know you. However, if, let's say right now, somebody, Art of Charm magically disappeared, God forbid, I could go to hundreds of different people and get jobs at corporations, companies, in startups, entrepreneurs that I already know, and that would take a meeting or a call with me in a second, because I would say, hey, listen, I'm sure you heard that the Art of Charm vaporized this morning. It's a real big bummer. I'm looking for something, and I've got all these different skill sets. I've got all these different levels of expertise. I've got these different levels of experience. I don't have to sell you on me. We've been friends for 4 years, 2 years, 1 year, whatever. And those opportunities are constantly falling in our lap. And a lot of people kind of go, man, Jordan, you're such a lucky SOB, because I'll get an ad deal, I'll get a speaking gig, I'll end up trying something before it comes out to the public, or I'll end up getting some kind of weird article somewhere like Time magazine, which even surprises even me. The reason that happens isn't because I'm like, man, got to get an article in time to hustle. Those opportunities flow my way because the network that I built there for just general purpose has provided that. I didn't join up or create those opportunities consciously or on purpose to get that article, to get that specific result. It happened as a result of me consciously creating that network on purpose for multiple reasons. And it's about, the other mistake that people do is they don't give enough when they network. They do something that's essentially, we should have a clever term for and don't, which is they basically rely on taking. I call you and I say, hey, guys, when you need somebody who's a financial manager, give me a call. That's how most people network. And that's bad news, because all I'm thinking about is what I want from you.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically selling, or a poor attempt at selling.
Yeah, poor selling. Exactly.
It's desperation selling.
It's desperation selling. That's a great term. Maybe I'll use that one. It's desperation selling. I mean, do you want to buy a car from the person who says, hey, I sell cars for Ford now, so if you need a new car, here's my card. I'm like, well, okay, I don't know you from Adam, but thanks, man. Or do you buy a car from somebody who says, hey, listen, I know that you said your brother was on the market for a car because he had that little accident where his car was parked and it got run over by a steamroller. I do sell cars. However, I don't need to sell him anything. If he has questions on how to get the best deal on a new car, I'm happy to give him some insight on how dealers price things, what he should be looking for, which types of vehicles have the best resale value. If you want, you can introduce him to me. Now, of course, if that conversation happens, who am I going to buy the car from? The guy who just gave me a ton of free advice and didn't try to sell me the car, or the guy who handed me his business card a month ago because he said, hey, one day you might need a car, call me. I don't owe that guy anything. Right.
Now, I feel like this goes both ways when it's actually even an in-person, face-to-face, as even to like any kind of online digital engagement, correct?
It is, yeah. This is both online and in person. I can't tell you how many introductions I've made without being asked from one person to another. Dory Clark, who you guys mentioned earlier, she introduces me to people all the time. And the way that we do this in sort of our online circle is we do the double opt-in intro, which is Dory will say, hey, I'm an author and I hang out with authors all the time. There's this other author. His name is Joe Blow. Would you be interested in having him on your show? I haven't spoken to him about it yet, but I will if you want. And I say, whoa, Joe Blow, he just released like 3 best-selling books over the last 5 years. I'm totally down for that. She goes, cool, stand by. Let me see what's up. She calls him and says, hey, I just spoke with Jordan Harbinger. He runs this show. It's got this kind of traction. He sells books really well. Would you be interested in / have time in going on the show? He's already said he's up for it either way. And Joe Blow says, yeah, thanks for doing all the legwork there for me.
Yeah.
I would love to be on a show with that kind of traction. It only costs me an hour of my time, and I'll probably make a ton of book sales from it. How can I go wrong? Then she makes the introduction. Yep. So at any point, I can say, oh, I've already had Joe Blow on. Thanks, though. Or he can say, oh, God, I can't do another podcast. I'll stab my eyeballs out with chopsticks if I have to. And then she comes back to me and says, actually, he's really slammed right now. He's working on a lot of projects. Let's circle back in a year. And I say, good, no problem. You still get credit for trying. And she gets the credit for making that introduction. We both owe her one, actually.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
right?
man.
So now, if she needs something, she can say, hey, Jordan, I'm writing a new book. Can I come back on your show? And I already love Dory, so it's a no-brainer. However, even if I was like, sure, I owe her one. I make introductions to her all the time, and now Joe Blow owes her one as well. So this is a win. It's one of those 3-way wins. Nobody's spending any social capital. It's actually multiplying on its own. And that's what most people don't really get. They're either looking at networking as a zero-sum game where somebody wins something or gives something and the other person takes. Or they're looking at it like, okay, I need to know these people so that they want to help me do stuff, and they don't think about the other half of the equation. And if you're not thinking about the process of giving and asking for generosity, you're only working half the bar. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It's the law of reciprocity.
There's that, yes. But it's less of that than it is about not keeping score. Because what I don't want people to do is go, oh, cool, I'm going to make 1 million introductions to all of these people, and then when I need something, they have to help me because they'll owe me one. I guarantee you, Dory does not think if I make these intros,
it's genuine. It's genuine.
Yeah. It's genuine, and you have to not keep score, because there will be a time that somebody will say, hey, Jordan, I made those 25 introductions to your show, and all of them turned out to be your most popular guests. You're welcome. By the way, I'm selling used motor oil, and I want you to sell it on your show. Can you do that? Because, for all those introductions.
You owe me. Yeah.
And I say, wow, no, I don't want to do that. And you're putting me in a weird position that now makes me not want to work with you on anything, because this isn't a good fit and you're trying to cram it down my throat because I supposedly owe you something. Now it makes all of the things you've done for me in the past seem solely aimed at getting something from me later. And I will tell you what, the more influential the person trying to reach, the more times they've seen that. And it is kryptonite for your relationship and social capital, because the second somebody sees that coming, they will never want to deal with you ever again on anything. So
makes sense. And I mean, sorry to cut you off. I mean, we know people like this. I think those of you listening in have all met somebody like this, and it's kind of making me quiver, because I've had experiences in my career where somebody, it's just like you said, it's they caress and finesse you. And then when things kind of hit the fan, you realize, oh, they did all of those things up to now just to do that, just to caress and finesse and they weren't really it was all just, they were aiming at getting me to do stuff for them for free. And it makes you feel like crap, and it makes you never trust that person.
Exactly. It erodes the trust. In addition to making you feel like crap, it erodes the trust, because what that says is that, for example, if I need an intro from Dory now and I know she knows someone, I can ask her for that and I will feel no qualms doing so. However, if I knew that she was just helping me to get something because I'd had one of those weird, experiences that we just discussed, I would never reach out. which limits her ability to actually plug into the network, right? Because now I'm not reaching out and asking for generosity, which means she's isolated. And I hate using her as an example of this because she's great and does not do this at all. But just given the fact that we have a known character. The other thing is it erodes the trust in that I know that the next time you try to do something for me, even if it's like, oh man, I would love to be on the front page of the Detroit Free Press. Oh, wait a second. No, because you're only doing this because the day it publishes, you're going to go, hey, so can I get, borrow you? Can I blah, 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 do this thing or get this discount on this thing that you sell?
We need to make sure you write every single week for my personal blog as a guest blogger because I got you on the cover. Yeah.
Or like, hey, you know how much that PR opportunity was worth? Yeah, I need a new car. Can you give me a $5,000 discount? Because, I got you that sick piece of PR yesterday.
Right. Yep.
And you're like, damn it. Every time you try to help me, it's actually me helping you. Except I wasn't aware of the contract that was going to be in place, but you were. That's conniving.
Yeah.
Right. But people think they're getting away with it. That's the thing. And that's why it has to be a set of habits and a way of being that you help other people get what they want without thinking about yourself. Because the second you start going, all right, well, if I help Brian do this and then I help him do that, then I can ask him for this later. Because if you do it, you feel bad because you feel like, you were forced into it, even if I'm trying to finesse it, like we talked about. And if you don't do it, then what happens? You kind of feel bad about it because you feel like you did owe me one, but then you're wondering if I'd planned it all along. And I'm actually mad at you because my secret contract that you weren't aware of was, if I help you, you'll help me with this. So if you say no, I'm now miffed at you for no reason other than I'm a kid and I didn't get my way, so I'm going to whine about it, even though I didn't disclose the terms of what was actually an exchange that you thought was actually a charitable act. Mm-hmm. And people do this in dating, right? You ever have a buddy who like picks the girl up from the airport 50 times and then is like, she dates these jerks all the time. And then he tries to make a move on her because she's drunk and she's like, what are you doing? We're friends. And he's like, but I picked you up from the airport. And she can't talk to him anymore. Right? We all have one friend that pulled some crap like that.
You're in the friend zone.
Yeah. And that's the same thing. It's a covert contract. If you're helping people with the expectation of them helping you in return and you're keeping score, you have covert contracts, and those are toxic to relationships.
Nobody wants them. That's hence why the reason, like anytime I've ever moved, I never asked anybody to help me move because then I set myself up for me to have to help them move, and I don't want to help them move.
Right.
I don't want to help myself move.
You don't even want to move.
Yeah.
You don't even want to move. You don't want to help your friend move. And they don't want to help you move. Just hire a mover.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you're desperate, ask a friend to help you move. But you just have to be ready for them to go, hey, buddy, I need your help moving. And the guy who doesn't do the reciprocity thing on that, you're rightfully able to say that person's not a good friend. However, if they didn't help you move and they ask you to move, you can be like, I think you should hire a mover. That's really bad. I'm almost 40. I can't be lifting crap like that.
Well, to kick this conversation up with people that you meet wherever you are in this, these networking events or via, online, wherever, what's the best way to kickstart that conversation so you can figure out the pains that they have that you possibly could genuinely help them with?
So that's a great question because you do have to kind of,
you have to finesse that a little something, right?
Fishing is the wrong word because you're not actually doing that. It mostly involves listening and direct offering. Now, the direct offering can be a little weird because people do that with me all the time, and I haven't quite gotten used to the whole idea. They'll do this thing where hey, Jordan, was just thinking about you. What can I do for you today? And I'm like, I'm good.
Like that doesn't work.
No, really. And some people who really look up to you and are in the same business as you and stuff like that, they might just be waiting to ask you something. Like Gary Vaynerchuk does this. He'll post like, what can I do for you today? And sometimes it'll be like a social media stunt where someone's like, I'm out of eggs, and he'll order them eggs or something. There's that. But the other thing is sometimes people go, well, since you're asking, I was really wondering about your strategy when it came to X, Y, and Z. That's a real favor. And they might be afraid to ask you. That's a good way to tease that out. But the better way is something like this. you ask me what you can do, or you ask me what you can do for me. I think of nothing. But then a week later, you see my show is in iTunes and I post something on Facebook like, hey, I'm looking for iTunes reviews, as every podcast is ever. Mm-hmm. And you go, oh, well, I can write an iTunes review. And I'm like, oh, cool, thanks. And then you go, and you know what? We have a Facebook group. I'm going to post your show in that group, and I'm going to suggest that people listen and then review the show. That's a really simple favor that doesn't really cost you anything. You're actually helping your own network find something that you think is useful. And then suddenly I'm like, wow, not only did they review the show, which is just like a cool solid, they publicized my show in their own community and then went the extra step of asking people to do things that they know already are going to help me. I didn't have to tell you I'm looking for that. You saw it, or you inferred it by the fact that I have a show. Like, even if I didn't ask for iTunes reviews, if you guys suddenly reviewed my show and then suddenly, put that out to your community, I'd be like, damn, that was cool, right? And
I just wrote that down.
Yeah. And that's how you get people to see it.
But you know what? I love this because that Robert asked pretty much the same question I was going to ask. Okay, how do we kickstart, or how do we get started with these relationships like what you have with Dory? And I love what you're saying. It's stop focusing on going straight in for the kill to get somebody to do something for you, or build this. We call them BRTs, like build relationships of trust, but take small, like be patient and take kind of the small and simple steps that go towards building a long-term relationship.
Yeah, well, a genuine relationship usually takes a little bit of time to build.
Yep.
And
Yes.
So it's,
which is totally, I mean, it's totally applicable for our audience because, I mean,
most definitely.
How often are they just going straight in for the kill? Hey, do you know anybody that would be interested in buying a car from me as well? Instead of, hey, wait a second. Yeah, maybe I did just sell you a car and maybe that process took 3 or 4 days, but we're really only 3 or 4 days into this relationship. And right out of the gates, I'm asking you for referrals instead of doing small and simple things along the way that just really build a stronger affinity with that customer.
Yeah, it's all about long-term relationships. It again goes back to keeping score, right? Because if you promote me on something because I asked and then you ask me for something right after, I'm like, that was a transactional relationship. Mm-hmm. That there's no longevity there. There's no reason for that to continue. If, however, we're constantly throwing each other introductions and then you offer me some advice about a car and then I offer you some advice about a show, and then a year later you're like, hey, we've been talking back and forth for the next few months. How do we get our show to the next level? Now I'm like, oh, well, all right, I'll help you out with that. Or sure, I'll promote that on my social media. It becomes a non-issue because it's the friendship thing. It's the relationship coming first, not the transaction coming first. And people do that, the transactional thing, all the time. And not only does it leave a sour taste in people's mouth for the reasons we've talked about before, but what it also does is it makes you a commodity because you're only as good as the favor you can then offer.
Yes.
And that's a huge problem for you if you're not a total baller. Like, sure, if Richard Branson treats people like that, oh, friggin' well, he's Richard Branson. He's got a crazy rep, tons of connections. He can get away with it. But, I'll put it this way. He probably didn't get to where he is by being like that. No. The other thing is, if you're only as good as your checkbook, then you're replaceable. If I'm looking at you from a transactional perspective, if you say, well, good, I want to invest in your early stage startup, I go, cool, how much? You say 20 grand. I say, well, I got another guy who wants less equity at this amount. So, but if I'm friends with you and I know you'll add value in some other way, I will choose you because I want to build the board it's more valuable than the initial investment. You're only as good as your last checkbook, your last check, your revenue, your social media following, whatever you can offer, unless there's something else there. So a lot of people try to network transactionally and they just chop their value way down.
Well, because there's always somebody with a bigger checkbook.
Of course.
Yeah. So exactly. It gives you no sustainability.
And here's another thing, right? If I have $10 million, I don't need your stinking 25 grand.
Yeah, exactly.
If I have $10 million and I'm starting an audio production studio and you're an audio engineer or one, I need that much more than I need your 25 grand. much more. You've got a guy who you can trust that shows up, doesn't steal, knows what he's doing, has done this before, and is pleasant to work with. That is far more valuable than the cash, which I can get from anywhere, which I already have. $5-10 million in the bank. My watch is worth more than that, right? And this is hypothetical. I don't even have a watch, but like, you know what I'm saying, right? Your money becomes marginally way less valuable. Your connections are the thing that's really the only thing that retains value as you move up the ladder. Right. I don't care about any of your possessions if I'm a billionaire. I don't care about any of your sort of like ability to hook me up with anything unless it's a relationship. Your network is the only thing that's unique about you at that level.
Very good.
Very interesting. Wow. So, I mean, just from a couple of questions, look at all that information about networking. I love this, and I feel like it's the conversation that is so timely, no matter where. Like, I feel like, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's so much information that we need to acquire.
Absolutely. And plus, back to it's only being a couple questions, is Jordan's a big podcasting star. One thing he can do is talk, man. So, like, I mean, that's, he hosts a show on a regular basis. He can go.
No, but
in.
I mean, we're so focused in the auto industry about, okay, how do we get more referrals? How do we prospect? How do we get our websites to work better? What's the best way to market ourselves? And this is really neat because this is so foundational, I think, to having a successful career, aside from like, the sales training and Robert, like all of the things we talk about on a regular basis. This networking topic is one that we've never really touched on, but I can definitely see how crucial it is to a successful career. And like you said at the beginning of the show, Jordan, if Art of Charm just kind of vanished today because of your ability to network and the relationships that you've built that are long lasting and genuine, you could roll into you could have another career or another job by the end of that day.
Pretty much. I get offers like that here and there from companies that you use that you've heard of, where it's like, hey, have you ever done business development? I'm a recruiter working for insert massive company here, and you're exactly the type of person we're looking for. Does podcasting take up your full-time job? And I'm like, yes, it's
can't knock them for taking a shot though. What I mean?
Well, sometimes they make me offers where I'm like, hey,
he's almost gone.
Like if this had come in 3 years ago, I might have been like, peace y'all, and just dropped the microphone and walked out and been working at some major I would have made more money taking I literally would have made more money taking some of those offers because they come with equity if you take them early enough.
Right.
And some of these companies, like, you have this program on your computer.
Love
and
it.
you use it every day.
No doubt, man.
Love it. Hey, man, don't want to take too much more of your time, but we wanted to thank you for being on the show. That information is so. I love this show, and so I just wanted to express gratitude for you to be for being on. We're going to link up to you in our show notes, so definitely check out for those at www.thedealerplaybook.com.
Where do you want them to catch up with you at, George? At the Art of Charm, or?
Yeah, the Art of Charm is fine, but also, guys, I mean, you're already listening to a podcast, so just wherever you're listening to this, search for the Art of Charm podcast and subscribe there, because we've got literally hundreds and hundreds of hours. Yeah. The most recent stuff from the past several years is mostly relationship-based networking and connecting. And
it's a powerhouse. It's value for anybody, especially in this sales-oriented industry by far. Jordan, thanks a million, bro. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, anytime.
And that was Mr. Jordan Harbinger from the Art of Charm podcast. Michael, did you enjoy that one?
Dude, I think, like I said in the intro there, it's cool because networking is this topic that we don't really dive that deeply into. But, like I said in the show, whether it's prospecting or trying to get referrals or trying to brush up on your sales skills, I think really at a foundational level, everything comes back down to your ability to network and build relationships. So I loved his viewpoint, which is, what we see a lot, or at least my observation, especially in the automotive industry, is what he referred to transactional relationships, where it's like, I'll do something for you, but I'm going to expect you to do something for me in return. And so what I really liked is that he kind of broke down in a real simple way how to get started building that relationship. And I guess what I would add is, like I said in the show, is just you got to be patient. You got to be more focused on bringing value to that individual without really expecting them to do anything for you in return.
Definitely, it's definitely the long game strategy and mindset, but it's more valuable than, and we're talking to guys that we make our livings, Michael, with websites and digital marketing, but this is nothing will sustain your living better than building a genuine network like Jordan has and how Jordan was, talking about.
Yeah,
Agreed?
absolutely. Oh, without a doubt, I think, and we see this all the time, especially with social media, adding that layer of transparency to everyone's lives. You can tell on social media who's good at building relationships because they're like, it's so public. It's like, oh, I'm out of a job. Anybody hiring? And then a week later, it's like, oh man, I'm still out of work. Checking
I'm
into
out of work
yeah, it's
again.
like, oh crap, checking into the Motel 6, and then a week later, it's like, oh freak, now I'm checking into this hostel, and then a week later, it's like, holy crap, anybody hiring? I'm moving into a cardboard box, and you see this progression of how crappy their networking skills must be, or just how incredibly horrible they are at just building lasting relationships. On the flip side, taking that opportunity, whether it's selling a car and asking for a referral, to just go the extra mile and be patient and think, okay, how can I strengthen the relationship with these people so that it just naturally, I think that's the key, just naturally turns into a mutually beneficial relationship. And I think the last thing that I would add is sometimes the relationship, just knowing that person, is the benefit of that relationship.
Absolutely. And something just for you listening in that, although he didn't come in and really even give a lot of automotive examples, and we talk about this before with marketing, like automotive marketing and people and car buyers. Listen, that's that mindset has to stop because they're all still people. Their mentality, that works the same. Their humanity, essentially, you know what I mean? The human beings, they function in it similar ways.
Yep. All right. So there you have it. That was Jordan Harbinger on the Dealer Playbook podcast. He's from the Art of Charm podcast. Definitely go check that out and subscribe. We're going to hook you up in the show notes with a link to that, as well as a link to where you can buy my new book, Don't Wait, Dominate. www.thedealerplaybook.com/56. All right. Thedealerplaybook.com/56. It's been a super incredible blast doing this episode for you guys. Hope you enjoy it. We'd love reviews on iTunes or Stitcher Radio. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.
Later.